E tanti auguri allora, grazie.
Grazie molte,
Grazie a
auguri.
tutti. Vito, mi
Grazie.
raccomando il 29, eh?
Va bene, volentieri, anzi lo rilanciamo il 29, organizzeremo un evento in piazza in cui, come dire, ribadiremo la nostra contrarietà alle politiche che si stanno attuando su Civitavecchia. Adesso non vi lasciamo ancora i dettagli perché siamo in definizione, ma appunto ci sarà qualcosa che bolle. Io comunque invito tutti a restare per due motivi. Uno perché
Io ti
sì,
chiedo scusa, ma ho un altro
va
Zoom
bene, va
di
bene,
qua.
va bene.
Intanto un abbraccio e grazie a tutti. Ciao.
Grazie Mario, grazie anche a Anna. Colgo l'occasione per ringraziare Anna. La invito comunque se lei vuole rimanere un altro po', che abbiamo oggi è il giorno dedicato alla pace e alla giustizia climatica, diciamo così. Stiamo facendo questo framework di 6P dello sviluppo del sostenibile. Abbiamo trovato negli altri giorni people, quindi le persone, prosperity, planet, e oggi è il giorno della pace. E inauguriamo il giorno della pace con un ospite che, come dire, è molto caro al Climate Social Forum proprio dopo questi eventi di settembre. Addirittura ci è venuto a trovare qua in Italia, quindi insomma noi stiamo parlando italiano, ma un po' per lui è come, si può dire, è ormai di casa, diciamo così. E adesso comincerò a parlare inglese comunque. Per chi è italiano c'è la traduzione, potete selezionare il canale italiano oppure il canale di traduzione e Giulia, che ringrazio tantissimo per il supporto, contribuirà a fare la traduzione in inglese. So I will switch into English. Ok, so tell me Giulia if it's all okay. You can, per chi è italiano potete scegliere, trovate uno dei canali, dovrebbe essere o italiano o inglese, uno dei due che, come dire, in cui c'è Giulia, che sentirete Giulia che parla in inglese. Okay, so I will turn again into English to welcome Joël Eboa from African Network of Youth Leaders for Peace and Sustainability and Sustainable Development. So, Joël, welcome. So, I was saying that I'm speaking Italian, but you know almost Italian now, no? We've been our...
I'm trying. I cannot say that I very well understand, but I'm trying.
I was joking, and I'm very glad to have you here, and very glad of this partnership also with your network that is like the concrete sample of the message of the Climate Social Forum, that only together we can cope with the crisis and so on. So, Joël, I leave the floor to you to like little bit tell about your organization, how you started also to deal with this topic. So, and as I say, the track of today is very centered on climate justice, on peace, and on how the youth, for example, can foster peace and sustainability. So the floor is to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Domenico, and a greeting to everybody. So I'm Joël Eboa, the Secretary General of African Network of Young Leaders for Peace and Sustainable Development. It is a Pan-African network that is based in Cameroon. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am going here to explain what about African Network of Young Leaders for Peace and Sustainable Development, and how the idea to create this network came. So what I should say is that I'm also engaged in advancing policies and in issues related to good governance and also public policies. I'm very much interested by issues related to indigenous people and how to build a strong coalition that will innovate so as to bring about change. So I grew up in the North Cameroon. So I think that you know Cameroon. So it is an arid region that is characterized by violent extremism, desertification, and land degradation, so resulting in high temperatures. There is no too much rain. People struggle to have water there. Most of the time, they walk long distances to draw water in wells, streams, so as to cook, to drink, to take care of themselves. That part of the country is my homeland. So it is a region comprising shepherd and also people that practice agriculture. And most of the time they are in conflict due to the scarcity of resources, of the scarcity of fertile land. And so we have also cattle that usually destroy the crops of farmers and yielding to unceasing conflict. In spite of most the difficult climatic condition, we practice agriculture in that part of the country. So we believe in land, knowing that we can all have from the land. And one day I remember that I've asked my mother when I was a child, whether things have been always like that. She told me no, many things have been changing and resources have been reducing due to the high temperatures and also incapacity of land to produce crops and in season. So she didn't know that she was talking about the climate change at that time. So no, I did not know back to then. So she was only describing what she has been noticing and feeling over here. And with time, when growing up, I've also started noticing and feeling what my mother was describing me. And after traveling within the country, meaning within my country, in several regions, people were also describing the same feeling in their homeland. So they have been noticing also changes of temperatures and also of season with grievous concern on human, water, and food security. So after some years, I have had the opportunity to travel to other countries across Africa, fascinated about indigenous people, as I told, community life and development issues. And I noticed that people were concerned by these various temperatures and seasons, but not at the same level within the same country or from a country to another. And but anyway, the most vulnerable victims were rural communities, especially women and youth. Women are in Africa, so they are this layer of the population that practice the most agriculture, which is the main source of revenue. That is the main source of earning in many areas. And young people constitute around 60% of the population because of joblessness. Many feel obliged to migrate. One thing that really struck in several countries like Niger, Chad, and the Democratic Republic of Congo was the pervasive impact and the effects of wood, mining companies on nature and life of many communities, and especially indigenous communities. So as many countries in Africa are struck by poverty and exploitation of natural excesses, it is considered by several governments like a blessing. So natural resources is considered to be a blessing. And naturally, many of those governments, they strongly support these activities of exploitation of natural resources because they think that it's going to help them to get developed. So that is one of what I've noticed. So those companies, and especially mining companies, are notorious for their lack of enthusiasm for the environment and quality of life. Their policy is simple, so exploit the fossil at the lowest cost and often to the detriment of indigenous populations. So those companies should, I say, come generally from Europe, Australia, and America. Government issue, several African governments issues to those companies exploration licenses. And by so doing, opening the door to health and humanitarian and environmental catastrophes. In several countries, many, namely in Congo Basin forest. So I should say that the Congo Basin forest is the second length of the earth. So after the Amazonia, so we have the Congo Basin forest, and my country Cameroon is in the Congo Basin forest, and several governments, in the countries of the Congo Basin forest, indigenous communities are asked to leave their homeland or their space, their lands for these companies who are interested by natural resources exploitation. So these licenses that are allotted by the government the allocation of these licenses by the government are done with the greatest opacity at the detriment of the local population. And this has a lot of increasing consequences for the communities, for indigenous groups like pygmies, pastoral, and all the communities that are living in oases. I take just the example of West Africa, namely Niger, where we have Tuaregs that are really suffering from the mining companies and also companies that exploit natural resources. So, so we have then as a result the loss of their land, their pastures, and they lost their wells, they lost their traditional ways of living, their culture. In one word, it means that they lost the existence and the main means of their existence and also subsistence. So all of this is also threatening with the serious pollution, judging by the effects already observed in several areas where these communities operate. In Nigeria, for example, we have thousands of economic refugees that come to swell in the Bukokis, that are shanty towns of mining towns living off their waste. So because of exploitation, water distribution, so because of this exploitation, the natural resources exploitation, I should say over exploitation, the water in those areas are not drinkable, and the epidemiological state is deplorable in several communities. So this is a social problem that is becoming a nightmare for people with the rush to minerals, because now we assist in Africa the more and more to the rush in minerals. So, but what I should say is that in Africa, young people that live in those sites are the most vulnerable and believe that they are exploited by those natural resources of those companies. And the government, given that over the years of exploitation, there is no concrete development that has followed in those communities. So if you take, for instance, the case of Niger, if you take several cases in Democratic Republic of Congo, you will see that there is no development that follow after the exploitation. So they just do that for themselves and at the detriment of local communities. So we say that we want to develop the countries, but we don't see concrete impact. So many says, even the government, that they want to develop countries, but we don't see concrete impacts in the life of communities that have been exploited, that exist over the unsatisfactory working condition. So, you know, many young people work there that are working in those companies. They do not have safety equipment. And also many communities they don't have safety equipment, and in many communities there's a lack of social services like electricity, hospital, school, roads, and with increased food and human security concerns, coupled with the disintegration of the socio-economic environment, environmental pollution, and increased morbidity. So natural resources exploitation leads in various areas to systematic destruction of the means of subsistence. So the violation also of the right to food, the right of living, the rights also of land to land, the rights of women, the rights of young people. So in many communities, young people have always found it difficult to survive, not only because of the contamination of their food, air, water resources that cause diseases such as cancer, but also because of the loss of their ancestral lands and traditional way of living. So if I take, as I said, the example of Tuaregs, that is in Niger, in West Africa, or the case, for instance, of Pygmies in the Congo Basin Forest, they have lost all the most part of their ancestral land, and they have been struggling to regain them under the United Nations Declaration on Rights of Indigenous People. But this is not a simple task. So we have the feeling that compared to Europe, mining companies, mining or exploitation companies, they don't come under much pressure from local or regional association, which acting as guardian of the quality of life, set up independent observation and demand transparency. So if you take, for instance, the case of Niger and many other African countries, for instance, the situation is different, and this allows those companies to act with complete impunity by carrying out the predation on both the human and natural environment. And some NGOs that have taken action are not enough powerful to fight against the system of exploitation of these natural resources because of the lack of capacities, and also the existence of, because also the lack of because of the existence of strong ties between the local administration and the holders of mines, exploitation, and the licenses, and between the political power and the mining company or these exploitation companies. So with these various experience and stories from my continent, and added to the exploration of scientific reports and studies, I've come to understand that we live in a characterized with a world characterized by several interconnectedness problems that are still persisting because we have not yet made up our mind to redefine altogether and synergistically a new relationship with nature. It is in this reason that by 2015, so with several also organizations, so across Africa, we decided to found an African network of young leaders for peace and sustainable development that is working mainly on the interconnectedness, peace building, environmental degradation, conservation, and also restoration. So tackling also the problem of climate change. So if since recent year, there is an increasing awareness on the general topic related to natural resource exploitation and their negative impact, given that children and young people are sometimes involved as workers with their rights violated, I should say that the awareness must be triple concerning the specific topics of wood and minerals. And sometimes we overlook that. And when we talk about the climate change, we because what is really more important for Africa, yes, it is agriculture, but it's also the minerals, it's also yes, the forest. So we have to give a particular concern and a focus on this when we talk about climate justice. And this is an issue. These are issues on which we have been working on. So obviously, in Africa, several government and some civil society organizations have been embarked on the conversation of regarding this issue, but we should say that with the growing also of violent extremism, this become the more and more complicated because as you all know, we have already this problem, but we have also in several countries, as in my country and also in several countries in Western Africa, in the Lake Chad Basin, several countries that were already suffering from this environmental degradation, now coupling with the violent extremism, I think we have to increase the focus on it. And mining company, they usually, I should say that many persons are not aware of the dangerousness of the nuclear energy. For instance, many companies that exploit minerals in Africa, it is for several purposes. Even for the purposes of destroying the humankind, even for several purposes. So people are not always aware. They are aware of the changes that they are observing. They notice it, but they are not always aware of the final result or the final aim of this exploitation. And we have the case of Japan and Hiroshima, where we have seen, for instance, the nuclear that has a negative impact on these communities. So the majority of young people and even adults, they don't know or are not aware that we are living in an interconnected and globalized world where what happens somewhere can affect the ways of living of other people. Because also, when we talk about mineral exploitation, it is the aim can also be to make the nuclear weapon. So when, for instance, we introduce a conversation related to nuclear weapon, because it is also something that is important for us. So some people, they don't really much understand, and sometimes they just see what directly affect them, not always what can affect them. For instance, if some things that is produced through this mineral exploitation. So we try to work to build the capacity of civil society, youth and civil society organization on this interconnectedness, and try to put on the table, yes, this conversation with several governments to increase awareness of that. And one thing that people should know is that when talking also about the sustainable development goals, these goals are already interlinked. We have to focus more on the problems related to climate change and also biodiversity loss, because these are the main issue that may lead to the non-achievement, to the fact that we cannot be able to achieve the sustainable development goals. And if we visualize in another way, if we find our solution that will help to solve this key problem, it will be really, it will really help that we achieve the sustainable development goals. So that is what I wanted to share with you. So for this moment, thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thanks to you, Joel, for your very wise words, and congratulate also for your activity as a network. I don't know, maybe we can have a space for a few questions to Joel from the floor. So if not, Joel, if I could, I have a question for you regarding also your activity as a network. So which challenges do you face to build the network itself, also among the African youths and so on. And also from that, which like lesson learned we can like share regarding building peace links and peace partnerships.
Okay, thank you very much, Domenico. So yes, the main difficulties is first of all linked to the languages. Since you know that in Africa we have several languages, so how to bring about many people that don't always speak the same language, because you have people that speak English, French, other people that speak Spanish due to the colonization. So how to bring them together. So we have started slowly, and we have started first of all in the country, and also we use also the experience that we have also with our various experiences as individuals in various other countries. And together with all the connection that we have, we finally built, yes, that movement. And yes, concerning now the running of the movement, that is, I think, building coalitions is something that is not always difficult, but that is our main goal, because we think that we can solve these problems that are interconnected with coalition, not as individual, but with coalition. So this takes first of all trust. This takes many points that should be in mind. So because to grow, we should first have the vision. So we work too much on the vision, on the strategic vision of the network. It took us several, I think some years to work on the vision, and also when people also are joining, to make also them understand, because in the coalition, you don't always have people that are all working in the same issues. So you can have people that are more interested on this issue, or as organization, they are working the more on this issue, not in the others. So also to bring them to understand these interconnectedness were also one of the challenge. So this brought us to build, to make several capacity building, to make them understand these questions, the importance of taking things or to see things with another lens. And also because I should say that every organization has already his own vision, since before pertaining or before being in the network, it is first of all an organization, not individual. So, and we have then to find out how all together we are going to solve this problem in a collaborative way and in synergy. I should say that it is not always easy. It is something that maybe it is something that takes time and also patience. But when you have a goal, when you have a vision, you may not have all what is required at the beginning as resources and all these things. Because when we started it, it was mainly our will and our desire and the strategy that we have that was the main basis of our actions. But if you don't have trust, you cannot move. So what is most important in leading coalitions or working in coalition is the trust first. Because your trust, and also I should say your faith, will bring you always to overcome difficulties you may encounter in the process. And yes, that is how what I can say. So it's not an easy task, but we are thriving, and we know that we are going to increase the impact. Thank you.
Thank you very much to you. Joel. I don't know if there are other questions, even though, or Joel, if you want to make a final statement, final remarks to closing.
Okay. So thank you. Very say I should say that yes, we have started a process, and we know that this process is not a process that will be a simple process, because in every implementation of strategy, you have always hindrances. But we believe and we move forward. So, and we know that, yes, also by building coalition, and this also is something that is really important to have the climate social forum, to have this kind of discussion. And I think that, yes, so generally what really block to move people, to make that people move all together is the fact that they have already, for instance, their program, they have already, or maybe their strategy. But if it comes to make something that is very powerful, so sometimes it may call kind of a meeting to reflect and to work in the same direction. Or the other ways is also to, for instance, to have a way of collaboration that is going to be profitable to each organization. So that is it. So for me, to conclude, I think that concerning Africa, yes, we have the issue of agriculture. We have the issue of resources exploitation. I'm talking the most about minerals and wood exploitation. That should be really taken seriously when it comes to talk about climate justice, and also to raise the awareness and also to voice, to increase the voice towards not only the local governments, but also the international communities, because we are talking about this problem. And sometimes I think that government that belong also to the international community, even the government that seems to think that they are really environmental, they are pro-environment. So when we see their action or what they are not able to stop from their country, it leaves us to make understand that sometimes people are not really, or even governments, many governments are not really willing to make things to change. So we can make that change all together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joel. Sorry, there is a very last question from the floor from Mario. Just very shortly, what we can do, for example, here that we are in Italy, in Europe, and so on. What we can do also for helping your network and so on.
Yes, I think that what we can do is, first of all, to make people understand the real situation that is happening in several indigenous communities, because it is not too much popularized, it's not too much broadcasting, and these should be known. And the most challenge of several civil society organizations in Africa, and I'm also talking about within the network, our Pan-African network, is lack of capacity building. So build their capacity, building capacity really helps to raise voice and to make that things happen. It's the reason why we have been focusing more on the capacity building, to make civil society organization to understand and also to see how they should work. So it is a process that we have started. So collaboration is really too much important. It is surely that we don't have the same level of intensity of the problem in Europe, for instance, in Italy, than in Africa. And even in Africa, it is not the same. The level of the problems is not the same from a country to another country. But knowing what is happening and also bringing collaboration, working together will be really helpful. So the most challenge of many civil society organizations, and I don't know the case of Europe, since I'm not working too much in Europe, but basically in Africa, and with the reality of every African, many of the most African countries, I should say that the most challenge is about also a support, because I told you, for instance, that sometimes civil society organizations are willing, they take action, but when it's come, for instance, of mineral resources, of resources exploitation, sometimes they find that their capacity is really reduced, because you have in front of them people that are powerful. When we talk of politics, when we talk of those companies that are supported by their government. If I take, for instance, we have Areva that is supported by France. We have several companies that exploit minerals and also resources in Africa that are supported. So what would be, for instance, a civil society organization if they don't have also this kind of support when it comes, for instance, now to take action after that they have understood the challenge and the necessity to be involved, and when they take action. So it is really important. So sometimes I'm talking about the power holders. So within the power holders, within a government or local authorities, you may have some people that are pro-environment, but they are few. So we should also have a system where we have this kind of networking across the continent that will really help, for instance, to support projects against, for instance, environmental degradation. And we have been talking with Domenico on how, for instance, to make that the climate social forum, for instance, outputs becomes a really concrete project on the ground, because it's all about that. For me, if we do that, we will really bring actions on the ground. So this is really important to take it into account, and acting like that, we can have a forum where people bring their input, present their reality, and when we can have some outputs that are going in my network, we are ready also to work on it. And I've already started sharing about it, because we try to make concrete action. So this will be something that is really nice. Thank you.
Thank you to you, Joel, and thank you for the common effort that you are doing. Surely on the side of Climate Social Forum, there will be the total availability of working together and continue fostering this collaboration. And properly on that, I want to cite that we will be with Joel also in another chance in this Climate Social Forum. Tomorrow morning, there will be a special table of the last 20 initiative, an initiative that we did together this September. Actually, we presented the output of the Climate Social Forum inside the last 20 initiative that was held by Associazione Laudato Si, Terre des Hommes, and other associations that were also part of the Climate Social Forum. And tomorrow, yes, we have the presentation of the special table with also the partner of the last 20. And it was very nice to also have Joel and another partner that we will see after, Paulino Witi, together with us at this initiative properly in Italy during the pre-COP. So such a great pleasure to meet them in person. Okay, so I think that we can go to the next session, there will be like a video, but in the meanwhile, I also invite to put your inputs into the open document or the piece track. Each day we are sharing a common document in which we are putting the outputs of the session.